The galactic Concord Hall always smelled faintly of ozone and recycled air, but to Commander Elias Ward, it carried another scent, of theater. Every race strutted into the chamber wearing their version of strength, the Scar with chittering honor guards, the crystalline Vathians who reflected light like living monuments, the scaled Trevier towering over their translators. Humanity alone arrived unarmed, clothed in sober uniforms that emphasized modesty over intimidation. That was by design. Ward moved through the chamber with unhurried steps, offering quiet nods to delegates who barely acknowledged him. His features were unremarkable, dark hair just beginning to silver at the temples, expression calm, voice steady. He cultivated normality like a weapon, hiding sharpness beneath layers of courtesy. Where others raised their voices, he spoke softly. Where others demanded, he asked. It was exactly what the galaxy expected of humans, diplomats too fragile for war, endlessly willing to compromise. He seated himself at the long crescent of polished obsidian, folding his hands. Screens floated above each delegate, displaying translated glyphs. Around him, murmurs thickened as the session began. Then the chamber doors shuddered. The sound was deliberate, like claws dragging across stone. A ripple of unease spread as Overlord Veilkar of the Ktharn Dominion entered, armored from throat to tail. His scales gleamed black under the chamber lights, scar tissue tracing patterns across his jaw. Soldiers followed in perfect lockstep, boots striking like drumbeats. Ward felt the change instantly. The air grew heavier, conversations muted. Veilkar exuded presence, the kind born of conquest. The warlord carried something clutched in one claw. When he reached the center of the chamber, he flung it down with theatrical violence. A banner, charred, bloodied, and torn. This, he growled, voice reverberating through the hall, is the fate of the Yauri who defied me. They were weak. They spoke of peace. Now they are ash. His eyes swept across the chamber before locking on Ward. And you, human, you are no different. Murmurs turned to whispers. Some delegates looked away, others stared at Ward with expectation, as if waiting for his inevitable collapse under ridicule. Ward leaned back, his expression unchanged. Overlord, the Concord does not convene to celebrate massacres. Veilkar's lips peeled back in what might have been a smile or a snarl. Massacre? It was pruning. The weak must serve the strong. Such is the order of life. He jabbed a claw toward Ward. And you come here draped in soft words, demanding balance, coexistence. You are prey lecturing predators. The chamber stirred. The insectoid Scar delegate clacked mandibles in agreement. The crystalline Vathians shifted, their surfaces dimming uneasily. Ward's tone remained calm, but his words carried steel. Peace is not weakness. It is survival made durable. Empires that conquer leave only ashes to inherit. Laughter erupted from Veilkar, deep and rasping. You speak as one who has never bled in real war. Your kind hides behind words because you have nothing else. For the first time, Ward allowed silence to hang between them. He looked at Veilkar the way a physician might study a wound, measured, patient, calculating. You mistake preference for capacity, Overlord. Do not confuse the two. The chamber quieted. Delegates leaned forward, tension coiling like wire. Veilkar struck again, voice booming. If you are capable, prove it. The Dominion will claim the Yauri's sector. Any who oppose will be ground beneath us. And when you are crushed, the galaxy will see humans for what they truly are, soft flesh wrapped in illusions. An aquatic delegate whispered too loudly. Perhaps he is right. The humans have no teeth. Ward heard it but didn't react. Instead, he rose from his seat. His movement was slow, deliberate, commanding the room not by force but by certainty. He looked not at Veilkar but at the assembly itself. The Concord exists because we believe there is strength in unity, Ward said. But unity demands courage. If we surrender every system to the Dominion's threats, then soon nothing will remain but chains. He turned his eyes, cold and steady, back to the warlord. Know this, if you strike again, humanity will answer. And our answer will not be forgotten. The room erupted in overlapping voices. Some scoffed, some whispered fearfully. Veilkar stepped forward, towering over the human. The difference in size was grotesque, 7 feet of scale and claws shadowing an unarmed man. Empty words, he hissed. Your species has never known predators like us. You are diplomats because you cannot be warriors. Ward tilted his head, expression unreadable. His voice was quiet enough that delegates leaned in to catch it. Pray you never force us to stop being diplomats. The line struck the chamber like a blade drawn from its sheath. The whispers died. Even the scar clicked their mandibles uncertainly. Veilkar's eyes narrowed. For the briefest moment, something flickered there, not fear, but the recognition of something he did not yet understand. The warlord recovered with a scoff. We shall see, human! He turned, cloak snapping behind him, and strode out with his soldiers. The doors closed with a heavy boom. The chamber slowly filled with sound again, but now every conversation circled around the same point. Had humanity just threatened the Dominion? Ward remained standing a moment longer, his expression carefully composed, before he sat again. He folded his hands as though nothing at all had happened. An avian delegate leaned over, feathers ruffling with agitation. Commander Ward, do you mean to pit your kind against the Dominion? Do you have the capability? Ward's eyes remained on the empty space Veilkar had left behind. His reply was calm, almost gentle. We have the capacity to choose peace. But capacity is not the same as necessity. The delegate shivered at the answer, as if struck by a sudden chill. Ward allowed the discussion to resume without him. Around him, the assembly argued, speculated, doubted. He let their voices wash over him like the background noise of a storm. Inside, he was still. The mask held. For now. The private chamber was quiet except for the soft hum of the station's life support systems. Commander Elias Ward stood with his back to the wide viewport, hands clasped behind him, staring at the stars. Behind him, 3 human envoys whispered among themselves, their voices sharp with unease. He humiliated us in front of the entire Concord, one muttered. They think we're bluffing. Ward turned, his expression calm but his eyes hard. That was his intent. Let them believe it. The fewer who understand what we're capable of, the longer we can hold the mask. The youngest envoy, a woman named Dr. Kiara Lowe, frowned. But how long can we keep hiding it? They already doubt us. They laugh when we call ourselves defenders. Ward moved closer to the table, resting his palms on its surface. We hide it for as long as possible because once the galaxy sees the truth, there is no going back. They will never see us as partners again, only as predators in disguise. His words hung heavy. He rarely allowed his voice to sharpen, but tonight it carried an edge. He lowered himself into a chair. Our history is carved in fire. We burned ourselves through centuries of war, clawed out of plagues, famines, and extinction events. We survived not because we were gentle, but because we were relentless. And now we wear diplomacy like a shield, not to fool others, but to restrain ourselves. Kira leaned forward, studying him. You sound like you expect this restraint to end soon. Ward's gaze shifted back to the viewport. Outside, stars glimmered coldly. That depends on the Dominion. The answer came sooner than expected. 2 days later, a shrill alarm echoed across the council hall. Delegates rushed to their seats as holoscreens flickered to life. The emergency broadcast revealed a burning world, ships in orbit shattering under plasma fire, cities scoured into glowing ash. A trembling envoy from the stricken system appeared on the transmission. The Ktharn, they came without warning. Entire colonies, gone. Millions. Static swallowed the rest. The chamber erupted in chaos. Voices overlapped in dozens of tongues, shrill, panicked, angry. Some demanded retaliation, others called for retreat, and more than a few turned their fury toward Ward. A Scar delegate clicked his mandibles. Where are your assurances, human? You said peace was survival. Where is your peace now? A crystalline Vathian pulsed with pale light. You promised stability. Instead, the Dominion grows bold. Is this your diplomacy? Empty words? Ward stood slowly, letting the uproar exhaust itself. When silence finally settled, he spoke with deliberate calm. "You misunderstand," he said. "Diplomacy does not mean weakness. It is a choice. A choice we make until it is torn from our hands." His voice hardened. "But know this, if humanity fights, we do not fight halfway." The hall fell into uneasy quiet. Delegates looked at one another, trying to decide if his words were threat or warning. From the shadows of the chamber, Vailkar's voice rolled like thunder. His image appeared on every screen, massive, armored, blood still drying on his claws. "Your council wails like frightened prey," the warlord sneered. "And your humans bark like cubs who have never tasted true war. Listen well, the Dominion rises, and all who defy us will be broken. Humanity will be first, to prove the galaxy's weakness. When your worlds burn, none will doubt it." The feed cut, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Ward's colleagues turned to him, faces pale. "What will you do?" He rose, the faintest trace of weariness in his eyes. "What must be done?" The elder envoy shook his head. "If you reveal what humanity truly is, they'll never look at us the same way. They'll fear us." Ward's reply was simple. "Perhaps it's time they did." Hours later, in a secured briefing room, Ward opened a channel to Earth's defense network. The hollow screen filled with the face of Admiral Sophia Trent, her hair cropped close, her uniform immaculate. "Commander," she said without preamble, "we received the transmission. The Dominion moves faster than expected. They intend to make an example of us." Ward replied. His tone was calm, but beneath it, an old fire stirred. "Then perhaps we should make an example of them." Trent's mouth curved into the faintest of grim smiles. "The fleets are already mobilizing. They've been waiting for the order." Ward's eyes narrowed. "Then let them off the leash." When Ward returned to the Concord chamber the next day, the air buzzed with tension. Rumors of humanity's mobilization had already spread. Delegates whispered in nervous tones, half in disbelief, half in fear. He stood before them without hesitation. "The Dominion has chosen war. We will not let their conquests spread unchecked. Humanity will act." A dozen voices rose at once. "You cannot stand alone against them. You will bring ruin on us all. Your fleets are small compared to theirs." Ward silenced them with a single raised hand. His calm presence cut through the din more effectively than any shout. "You believe we are weak because we have chosen peace. You believe restraint is emptiness. You are mistaken." His voice dropped lower, colder. "You think humanity incapable. What you should fear is what happens when we stop pretending." The room fell silent again. Delegates stared, struggling to reconcile the soft-spoken human with the threat woven into his words. Ward turned away from them, the faintest smile touching his lips. For years, humanity had hidden its teeth. That time was over. In orbit around distant Earth, massive fleets stirred from their long dormancy. Ships slid from dry dock, their hulls dark and predatory, weapons arrays glowing to life. They were not ceremonial craft meant to impress. They were killers, built with one purpose. The galaxy had never seen them fight. They would soon. On the edge of the Aerith Prime system, hundreds of ships emerged from folded space with the precision of a blade sliding free of its sheath. They did not arrive in scattered groups, nor with the theatrical bursts of plasma other empires used to intimidate. They appeared as one, arranged in predatory formation, lines sharp, overlapping arcs of fire already calculated, every angle covered. The delegates of the Concord watched the tactical screens in horrified fascination. These were not ornamental vessels with gleaming crests or ceremonial banners. Humanity's ships were stripped of vanity, designed only to kill. Hulls were matte black, sharp-edged, bristling with weapon ports. Even at rest, they radiated intent. They were hiding this," whispered a Vathian, light dimming across its crystalline surface. A scar hissed. "Prey does not build fleets like hunters. Prey does not prepare for extermination." No one laughed now. The Dominion fleet surged into the system like a storm. Hundreds of Klarn warships, each armored in brutal plating, their weaponry roaring with overconfidence. Overlord Veilkar's flagship led the charge, massive as a city, bristling with cannons. His voice thundered across every frequency. Behold the end of human lies! They pretend to power, but today they will die praise death! The Chtharn ships spread wide, confident in numbers, their strategy the same as it had been for centuries: overwhelm, crush, devour. Ward stood in the observation deck of the Concord Hall, hands folded behind his back, gaze fixed on the void. His voice carried evenly over the channel to the council. Watch closely. This is the difference between restraint and necessity. The human fleet moved. It was not a charge. It was not the desperate clash of two equal forces. It was the hunt. Without hesitation, without wasted motion, the human warships executed maneuvers no alien fleet had ever attempted. They shifted formation as if each vessel shared a single mind. One line cut through the Dominion's vanguard, every strike precise, disabling engines and weapons in bursts of blinding efficiency. The aliens watching gasped as Dominion ships died by the dozens, not in chaos but in silence. Human weapons did not scream, they whispered. Focus beams cut through armor. Kinetic slugs struck with surgical accuracy, piercing reactors. Every move was deliberate. The Concord delegates had seen wars before. But this was not war. This was predation. The Chtharn, used to overwhelming foes with ferocity, found themselves dissected. Entire wings blinked out in coordinated bursts. When they tried to regroup, humans fainted, baiting them into traps already mapped hours before. They're not improvising," whispered Dr. Kira low in awe from Ward's side. "They've calculated everything. This isn't battle, it's slaughter." Ward did not answer. He did not need to. On the flagship, Veilkar snarled as one of his lieutenants stumbled into view. "They fight like no enemy we've known. The warlord's claws smashed the console. "They are prey. Press harder. Drown them in numbers." But numbers no longer mattered. The Dominion fleet shrank by the minute, reduced ship by ship. The humans did not revel, did not taunt, did not waste. They killed because killing was required. Nothing more. Nothing less. By the time Veilkar realized he was outmaneuvered, half his armada was gone. And then the humans struck at his flagship. Inside the Concord chamber, the delegates fell silent as Ward's voice came again, measured and steady. "It is over." The screens showed the flagship disabled, engines gutted, weapons silenced. Human ships surrounded it at a distance, close enough to destroy, far enough to demonstrate control. Ward transmitted directly. His image flickered onto the Dominion bridge, calm against the backdrop of destruction. "Overlord Veilkar," he said quietly, "do you understand now?" The warlord's massive form loomed over the projection. His armor was scorched, his pride bleeding from every jagged breath. You are predators," he rasped. Ward's reply was soft, unblinking. "No. Predators hunt because they must. Humanity chooses peace because we know the cost of what we can do. We are worse, Overlord. We are predators who learned restraint." The warlord sank against his command chair, silent for the first time in memory. When the battlefield's cut, silence filled the council. Delegates who had mocked humanity now stared in fear. The Scar lowered their mandibles. The Vathians dimmed their lights in submission. No one dared speak against Ward. Finally, an avian delegate broke the silence, feathers trembling. "You could have annihilated them all. Why spare survivors?" Ward's eyes swept the chamber. "Because extermination is easy. Mercy is harder. And if humanity has any gift, it is knowing when to stop." His words carried weight beyond the moment. The council understood then what they had never grasped before, that humans did not cling to diplomacy because they were weak, but because unleashing their full strength would leave nothing left to negotiate with. Later, in the solitude of his private chamber, Ward stood again before the stars. Kira joined him, her voice hushed. "You revealed too much. They'll never see us the same way again." Ward's reflection in the viewport was expressionless. "Good. They shouldn't. You wanted this?" "I wanted peace," he answered softly. But if they only respect predators, then they needed to see what kind of predators we truly are. He turned from the window, the faintest trace of exhaustion in his eyes. Now they know. The next day, the Concord met again. No one questioned humanity's right to sit at the table. The smaller races looked at Ward with something like awe. The great empires, once dismissive, now measured their words carefully. Vailkar's dominion sent no representatives. What remained of their fleet limped back into hiding, scarred and silent. Ward addressed the assembly one last time. His voice was steady, his presence calm. We seek peace, as we always have. But never mistake that choice for weakness. Humanity will protect those who cannot protect themselves. And if you force us to bare our teeth, you will remember what you saw today. The chamber remained hushed long after he sat down. No delegate laughed. No one whispered. For the first time in Concord history, silence was respect. That night, Ward stood alone once more, watching the cold glitter of the stars. Humanity had been unmasked. Diplomats no longer. Partners, perhaps, but never underestimated again. And somewhere, in the quiet between stars, Ward allowed himself a single thought. Peace is not our nature. It is our mercy.